Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we discuss about properties of the nerve fiber. Properties of the nerve fiber. The first property is conductivity. Conductivity. Conductivity is ability to transmit or conduct action potential or nerve impulse. Ability to conduct or transmit action potential or nerve impulse is conductivity. The other property is excitability. Excitability, ability to respond to stimuli. Ability to respond to stimuli is excitability. Now, in the property of excitability, there are certain points which are important. Excitability is the ability to respond to stimuli. What is a stimulus? Stimulus is a change in the environment. A change in the environment is stimulus. We know different types of stimuli. Stimuli may be electrical, mechanical, thermal, electromagnetic, osmotic, right? So different types of stimuli. And nerve fiber, of course, it can respond to many stimuli, say the electrical stimuli, mechanical stimuli, and other stimuli. But of course, the most important stimulus is the electrical stimulus. Electrical stimulus. What is a nerve impulse? What is the nerve impulse? Nerve impulse is a physicochemical change that is transmitted along the nerve fiber. A physicochemical change that is transmitted from nerve fiber is nerve impulse. When you say nerve impulse is transmitted along the nerve fiber, it means action potential is being conducted along the nerve fiber. When we say the nerve impulse is being conducted along nerve fiber, it means action potential is being conducted along the nerve fiber. Nerve impulse includes electrical change, chemical changes, and thermal changes. Electrical change, right? Chemical changes and then thermal changes are included in the nerve impulse. I mentioned that electrical stimulus is a very important type of stimulus. There is relationship between the voltage or strength of stimulus and the duration. So there is relationship between the strength or voltage of stimulus and the duration. This is the strength duration curve. This is the strength duration curve. You see in this curve, duration time is along the horizontal axis, while the voltage or strength is along the vertical axis. And this is the strength duration curve. Generally, when voltage increases, duration decreases. So generally, when voltage increases, duration decreases. You can see in this. So when voltage increases, duration will decrease. Generally, there are two units of excitability. Two units of excitability: Rho-base and chronexy. Rho-base and chronexy. rheobase, Rheobase. So rheobase, and chronaxia, chronaxia is chronaxia. What is rheobase? Rheobase is the voltage or strength of stimulus which, when applied to a tissue, excites it. So rheobase is the voltage or strength of stimulus which, when applied to a tissue, excites it. And the time for which this stimulus has to be applied, the time for which the stimulus has to be applied is called utilization time. So what is utilization time? The time for which the stimulus has to be applied to excite the tissue is the utilization time. Let us say this is the strength of voltage stimulus. This is 1 millivolt, 2 millivolt. Right? So when we apply 1 millivolt voltage or strength, the response appears. This is the response. Right? Response appears, and the time for which it has to be applied is utilization time. This is the utilization time. Right? So rheobase is the voltage or strength of stimulus which, when applied to the tissue, excites it. And the time for which it has to be applied is utilization time. The other unit of excitability is chronaxia. So chronaxia is the other unit of excitability. Chronaxia, chronaxia is chronaxia. Chronaxia is duration. Or time for which a stimulus double the rheobase, when applied, excites the tissue. Chronaxia is the time or duration for which a stimulus double the rheobase, when applied, excites it. So keep in mind, chronaxia is not voltage, it is time or duration for which a stimulus double the rheobase, when applied, excites the tissue. What was the rheobase? 1 millivolt. Right? You double the rheobase, you make it 2 millivolt. So rheobase is 1 millivolt. You make it 2 millivolt, and you apply. In how much time response appears is chronaxia. So this is the chronaxia. This is the time or duration. This is the chronaxia. This is the chronaxia. Right? So I repeat that rheobase is the voltage or strength of stimulus which, when applied to the tissue, excites it. And the time or duration for which it has to be applied is called utilization time. Now we come to chronaxia. Chronaxia is the time or duration for which a stimulus double the rheobase, when applied, excites the tissue. And this is the chronaxia, and this is the rheobase. This is the rheobase, and this is the utilization time. Right? Different tissues have different chronaxia time. So different tissues have different chronaxia time. Chronaxia of type A nerve fiber is 0.1 to 0.2 millisecond. Right? And connexity of type A nerve fiber is 0.1 to 0.2 millisecond. Connexity of skeletal muscle is 0.25 to 1 millisecond. And connexity of cardiac muscle is 1 to 3 milliseconds. Right? So connexity of type 1, connexity of type A nerve fiber is 0.1 to 0.2 millisecond, and connexity of skeletal muscle is 0.25 to 1 millisecond, and connexity of cardiac muscle is 1 to 3 millisecond. Keep in mind that as connexity decreases, excitability increases. So connexity value when decreases, excitability increases. So which tissue has got shortest connexity? Type A nerve fiber. Type A nerve fiber. That is 0.1 to 0.2 millisecond is the connexity value of type A nerve fiber. So it is the most excitable tissue. It is the most excitable tissue in the body is type A nerve fiber, having the shortest connexity period. Right? So you must be very clear about the Rio base and then connexity. And connexity, which indicates excitability. So short connexity means tissue is more excitable. And prolonged connexity means tissue is less excitable. So less excitability with longer connexity there. So what is the clinical importance of connexity? It helps surgeons to assess improvement after repair surgery. It helps the surgeon to assess improvement after the repair surgery. Surgeon repaired, say, some tissue, muscle or nerve. After that, its connexity value is tested. If connexity is becoming towards normal, it means there is improvement of the repair surgery. And if connexity value is not coming towards normal, it means the repair surgery is not effective. So it helps the surgeon to assess the improvement after the repair surgery. Now in the excitability, another important point is the refractory period. Refractory period is the period during which the tissue does not respond to the second stimulus after application of the first. The period during which the tissue does not respond to the second stimulus after application of the first stimulus. You apply one stimulus to a tissue, and then you apply the second stimulus. The tissue does not respond to second stimulus for a certain period of time, and that is called the refractory period. Refractory period is of two types. So two types of refractory period, absolute and relative. Absolute and relative. In absolute refractive period, the tissue does not respond to the second stimulus, whatever the strength of stimulus may be. In absolute refractive period, the tissue does not respond to the second stimulus, whatever the strength of stimulus may be. And in the relative refractive period, the tissue may respond to second stimulus if it is stronger. So in the absolute refractive period, no response at all, whatever the stimulus strength may be, how much strong it may be, no response. This is the absolute refractive period. And if the tissue responds to a stronger stimulus, stronger second stimulus, it is called relative refractory period. Now we come to this refractive period when we discuss further the nerve physiology and other aspects of the nerve and muscle physiology. Now I've discussed some of the facts about the nerve. We have studied the cell membrane. In the cell membrane, there are protein channels. There are protein channels. There are also in the cell membrane certain pumps, say sodium potassium pump. Sodium potassium pump. Now these different types of channels in the cell membrane, these include lead channels, you see in this figure, potassium lead channels, or you say sodium potassium lead channels. So these lead channels are open all the time. These potassium lead channels are open all the time. Whether rest or activity, these are open all the time. You see, sodium potassium pump, you must have studied in the cell physiology about this pump, an electrogenic pump, active all the time, and it pumps out 3 sodium ions and pumps in 2 potassium ions. It pumps out 3 sodium ions and pump in 2 potassium ions. This is an electrogenic pump, active all the time, pumping 3 sodium ions in and pumping out 2 potassium ions. Now in addition, there are certain other types of channels in the cell membrane. One type is the ligand-gated channel. Ligand-gated channel. In these channels, when a ligand or a chemical, this chemical may be a neurotransmitter, it may be a neurotransmitter or a hormone. So when a neurotransmitter or hormone, which is ligand, it binds with the channel, a part of channel, there is opening of these channels, or you say activation of these channels. So when a ligand, which is a chemical, it may be neurotransmitter or a hormone, it binds with the portion of the channel, there is opening or activation of the channel. And these are called ligand gated channel. For example, acetylcholine gated channels in the muscle membrane at neuromuscular junction. Example is acetylcholine gated channels in the muscle membrane at neuromuscular junction. Next type channels is phosphorylation gated channels. Phosphorylation gated channel. Now when there is phosphorylation, there is opening of the gate of these channels. There is opening of the gate of these channels. So when there is phosphorylation, there is opening of the gate of these channels. And when there is dephosphorylation, there is closure. There is closure of the gates of these channels. So these are phosphorylation gated channels. The next type is voltage gated channel. Voltage gated channel. When there is change in the membrane potential, when there is change in the membrane potential, it results into opening of the gate of the channel. So change in the membrane potential, there is opening of the gate of the channels. And these are called voltage gated channel. For example, voltage gated sodium channels, voltage gated sodium channels, voltage gated potassium channels, voltage gated potassium channels, voltage gated calcium channels, voltage gated calcium channels, and then voltage gated slow calcium sodium channel. Voltage gated slow calcium sodium channel. So these are the examples of voltage gated channel. Next type of channels in the cell membrane is stress or pressure gated channel. Stretch or pressure gated channel. When there is stretch, there is opening of the gate of the channel. So stretch or stretching results into opening or activation of the gate of the channel. So these are stretch or pressure gated channels. This was about briefly about the type of channels in the cell membrane. The extracellular fluid outside the cell, and this is the intracellular fluid. Which is the main cation in extracellular fluid? Sodium. And which is the main cation in the intracellular fluid? Potassium. So sodium is the main cation in the ECF, extracellular fluid, and potassium is the main cation in the intracellular fluid. Sodium is outside the cell is 140 milliequivalent per liter, and inside the cell 14. You see, it means sodium is 10 times greater in the extracellular fluid. Sodium is 10 times greater in the extracellular fluid. We come to potassium. Potassium is 140 inside the cell and 4 milliequivalent outside the cell. We can say that potassium is 35 times inside the cell greater than outside. So potassium is 35 times greater inside the cell than outside. right? So sodium is 10 times greater outside the cell, or you say in the extracellular fluid, while the potassium is 35 times greater inside the cell as compared to the extracellular fluid. And keep in mind that the potassium leak channels or potassium sodium leak channels are 100 times more permeable to potassium than to sodium. So sodium potassium leak channels are 100 times more permeable to potassium as compared to sodium. So you keep in mind that sodium potassium leak channels, or simply potassium leak channels, are 100 times more permeable to potassium as compared to sodium, right? And potassium is 35 times more inside the cell as compared to outside. Potassium is 10 times greater outside the cell as compared to inside. So these facts we must keep in mind before we start the next topic, that is the resting membrane potential. Resting membrane potential.